The work which you see here at Macro is titled Where the Bees Suck Their Sakai, and this is a site-specific installation created in Mumbay. The work speaks about landscape, it speaks about migration, it speaks about displacement, it speaks about man-made landscape and how it changes the natural skyline. The work kind of grows from coming from one city which is developing into another one which is still developing. Because you've heard stories about Rome where people say you dig 10 feet down and you discover another city or another layer. So when I was invited to exhibit in Macro, for me Rome as a city or as a site became very important, where it kind of exists in layers and how you can actually go deep down and discover those layers, whereas with this work you kind of erase layers and you discover new layers as well. The work kind of comes more from my own interest in landscape, and over a period of time my interest in the issues of migration, which are very close to my own history of migration, my family migrating from Pakistan to India during the partition, and how people look at cities as homes for migrating. And sometimes these cities become a very, very important source of survival for them. When you look at squats in Bombay, they are surely the most potent spots for the migrants, because they can squat anywhere without worrying about buying a property or taking permissions to settle down. As an artist, when I'm looking at a landscape of any classical landscape, or even as a tourist in Bombay, when I look at the skyline, one realizes that that particular skyline is created by human beings. And then the journey began backward for me to see how human created landscapes work as an interruption into the natural landscapes, and how do I look at the quality of sublime in that particular landscape, comparing it to the natural landscape. So that kind of became an exercise for me as an artist, and I started taking elements from the city, from the people who were creating these landscapes. And as I started working, there were a lot of layers to the work which kind of brought in the socio-political and the economical aspects. The city, its politics, its power politics, and the whole issue of migration and the politics of migration and human rights and all that. So for me, the work kind of exists in layers, and how it kind of grows from there, and how a meaning kind of comes in just very symbolically from the material or the form which exists within the work. For me, it became also quite important to speak about a particular landscape, where in this case it is definitely a part of inspiration which comes from the slums, which otherwise is not taken in good stride in any of these established cities. Well, as an artist, I paint a lot, I sculpt a lot, so it became extremely important for me to create this work, because the slums are very hand-created too. And all my works are hand-created. And in this case too, like if you see the huts, they're all like detailed paintings. You'll see the windows, you'll see the lines, you'll see the clothesline somewhere. But eventually, it's a hollow structure. And the idea of creating this hollow structure was also to kind of understand the meaning of houses, just like a box in a temporary shanty or in a temporary existence. For me, all these things were working very symbolically, because the material itself, which is aluminium tin, comes from the slums where people actually make their homes with these materials. This inclusive of plastic and wood. So the material also became a metaphor for me to speak about these areas into the city. And the fact that these materials don't tarnish and it becomes a long-lasting material for the people who are building these homes. The time we are in, it becomes extremely important to understand the complexity of existing in different cultures, which can be very easily put into exotic, but at the end of it, art is a universal language, and for me, as an artist, what I speak symbolically could mean something else for some other person in other cultures, something else symbolically. So I quite enjoy this distance or this closeness art can create. It doesn't, like, looking at any work in the building, I'm sure people can relate to it because each work speaks a certain universal language which allows the viewer to relate to it in a particular way or relate to it in a different way.